Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Daily English Podcast here at GSPN. I am today joined by two wonderful people overseas. We've got Nathan, the Villa fan. How are you, Nathan?
I'm good, thank you. A little bit salty about the Wolves loss, but we have to get over it and we move on, right?
Absolutely. And we're also joined by Eshan Fontin, a Germany shirt today, Eshan, is it?
Yeah, gotta rep Tony Cruz from the Euros. Fresh kit. I had to cop this one.
Very nice. Well, we've had a full fixture list of games this weekend, and a lot has happened, and there's so many things that we're going to talk about. But we're going to start at Arsenal, who has played City, and it was a huge game for Arsenal. It was a difference of going 6 points behind Liverpool, and they managed to do that. The game was very, very interesting, in my opinion. They went ahead very early with Martin Odegaard. And for the rest of that half, it seemed fairly dominant. Not very much happened. Early in the second half, City hit back with their talisman, Erling Haaland. And then after that, the demise of City happened, which was beautiful to watch in so many ways as a United fan. However, I thought the finishing, although lucky at some points, like the Partey goal was quite lucky with the deflection. Other than that, the finishing of the Arsenal goals, I thought were very, very good. I'm going to come to Eshan first. What were your thoughts on this game?
I thought it was interesting how last week City conceded early, fought back, and then pushed on like a previous City would, and how this season they'll concede early or not concede and maybe fight back, but crumble in the second half. Because I think what we're seeing now with City this season is the fear factor is maybe not gone, but it's almost obliterated. Because this what happened today happened exactly in the PSG game. As soon as they equalized, as soon as they had that little bit of momentum, Arsenal pushed, and PSG pushed, and they got the fruits of their labor. And I think that's reflected in the scoreline, and it's reflected in the 40 minutes after Haaland's goal. It was just Arsenal.
Yeah, agreed. City held on to the draw for 60 seconds before Arsenal regained the lead, which it says a lot about their team at the minute. Nathan, what were your takeaways from that game?
I thought the early goal and the way that they just give them the ball. The Arsenal tend to start games really, really aggressive and intense, and it just felt like wasn't ready to play the game. And when you go 1-0 down so early, it sets that narrative that you gotta come back and you gotta push on. And I just felt, they got the equaliser. It was a really good ball in from Savinho, who's had a little bit of an upturn in form. And I feel like the Haaland thing when the last game when he threw the ball at Gabriel, and there's a little bit of needle between the two teams. Maybe because Haaland scored it spurred them on a little bit. And I like what you said about the quality of goals. Like Lewis Skelly's goal was amazing. Who's had a really good starting campaign for Arsenal. And then I thought Havertz was linking the play very well. He got his goal in the end. And then just to put the cherry on top, and Nwaneri hitting that goal as a when you have one of your own scoring goals like that in big games, it's really good for you, especially your whole club. It demonstrates how good your youth academy is. But I think defensively, Man City have really, really showed vulnerabilities this season, and that game today highlighted that. Especially down the left side with the Nwaneri goal, Gvardiol and Savinho, they don't look in sync, or they don't know how to defend that well as a pairing. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. The Kai Havertz goal reminded me of Lucas Podolski back in the day, firing it across goal, whipping it into the corner. I feel like it was testament to the form of both teams at the minute. You know, Arsenal took advantage of games where maybe it could have gone either way, and City showed that they really are struggling to maintain. Like they had the similar game to Chelsea at home. I thought where it could have gone either way, and the
Mm.
Chelsea game happened to go City's way, whereas the Arsenal game definitely hasn't. So we move on from two teams that are doing really well. I know this is going to annoy people because I'm moving about. And we're going to go to another team that are significantly struggling, trying to stay out of the relegation battle, and that is Man United. Old Trafford was yet again a horrible place to be. As we saw United lose 2-0 to Palace. I'm going to go to our fellow Man United fan first. Eshan, what went wrong today?
I think it's just yet another example of us having the quality and none of the efficacy. It's so frustrating to see these footballers that are paid millions and millions of pounds like flutter. And I guess it's a point to how much confidence and momentum has in football, and that, like, you hope once Ruben Amorim gets his tactical setup in that, like, it'll be a different story. But if we continue to see stuff like this, you're gonna lose the fans. It's only a matter of time. That is my biggest frustration with all of this, is that after so many years of being a United fan, after post Fergie, I think the fans are starting to lose hope season after season, manager after manager. I think when a lot of fans, when they saw Ten Hag and saw what he did with Ajax, there was this notion of, okay, finally we have our man. Finally we have our man. And, like, it felt very much last straw. And then now with Ruben Amorim, you don't want to be too harsh because it's still the start of his journey, but you're creating the foundations, So today's game was one team having a striker that was putting away their chances and another team that was still messing around with tactics. I think putting Mainu up, I'm a big fan of pushing Mainu up further up the field, but I don't think we can afford to do it in place of our number 9. Like, how can we have the output of goals if we don't really have that figure out up top? I know it can be done. City have won the Premier League with this team, but that's when they had supreme confidence in the system. That's when they had supreme confidence with the wingers to do their job and push in. And Liverpool have done it. It's the same thing though. Like, if you have supreme confidence in your wingers to have the output, then you can have a 9 that is a false 9 and drops back. So I think that's what I would point to more than anything. It also shows you how United have been linked with Matthias Tell for good reason. We need more attacking options. If Ahmad gets an injury, if Garnacha gets an injury, we are so ridiculously thin up top that we need reinforcements.
Yeah, and Lissandro Martinez went off with another knee injury, which could arguably be one of United's most consistent players over the last few games, leaving Amorim with a platform that is significantly struggling. But talking about platforms that don't struggle, here at Zencastr, we'd like to share with you an advert of how and why you should use your platform service at Zencastr. Ishan, can you press the ad for us? So, ladies and gents, that was the GSPN advert there, and that is where we are speaking to you from. Podcast from every football team in the EPL, as well as a fantasy football, Champions League. We've got the women's football, all of it there. We're all on YouTube and the social medias. Make sure to give us a follow. As we move on to our second segment of today's podcast, we are going to look at the Saturday fixture was Forest against Brighton. And what a response. I said it in the Friday preview show that this was a huge game for Forest. If they wanted to be regarded as a team in the top 4 today, this weekend they had to bounce back, and they did exactly that. They smashed 7 goals against Brighton. Chris Wood with a hat trick. A shout out from me personally from Anthony Alanga. I thought he was excellent throughout, and he stood out. I think he got a hat trick of assists actually. Yeah, I think it sends a clear message. And also to top that off, when your team are performing well in an attacking sense, it's very, very vital that you're defensively strong as well. And I think the goalkeeper and the save against Welbeck onto the bar that nearly crossed the line was testament to that. I'm going to go to Nathan on the Forest game. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I echo things that you said about Nottingham. They they just kept pushing and pushing and pushing in the first half, and they just didn't have any answers. And I thought Gibbs White was amazing in that first half. I think he's really strengthening his England credentials. He was just all the passes he made was coming off. They kept releasing Alanga down the right, and I think they had Tariq Lamptey at left back, who's not a natural left back, and it was showing like how the 1v1 matchup there was he was getting the better of him. And yeah, I just think there were 3-0 within the space of 20 or 30 minutes, and it was really damaging to see like how defensively Brighton this season have been so weak. Like Lewis Dunk with the own goal as well. That's not like him. He's been a good Premier League player over the years. But yeah, I just think Nottingham Forest, this the embodiment of just intensity, aggression, and with Chris Wood up front having the season of all seasons, it's just everything just clicking into place for them. I noticed Danilo came back as well, and he's a brilliant player also. So they've got a lot to look forward to as Nottingham Forest fans, especially not relegation battles anymore.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the questions that I did want to ask both of you today was so Chris Wood's performance and season so far has been phenomenal. But I wanted to ask you guys, what level of footballer do you think he is? Where is the pinnacle for Chris Wood's career? Because as you both said, as we've said, he is playing phenomenally well in a Forest side which are exceeding their expectations. But realistically, where could he see his career? Is this the pinnacle of it, or do you think he could be playing in a bigger team?
Personally, I mean, he's 33 years old. You know, he played in the 2010 World Cup for New Zealand at like 18 or something like that. He's had a long, long career, and I think what we're seeing is the pinnacle. Just because I think it's an accumulation of all of his experience. He's in a good age where he can still use that experience and really well. And I hate to say it sometimes, but is it really a better league than the Premier League? And 17 goals in a season is uh, people would win top goal scorers with 18 goals, you know, like in previous campaigns. So it's quite a high bar. If he gets better, all glory to him, great for him. But I think we could be seeing the pinnacle of his career.
Do you agree, Nathan?
Yeah, his age especially, and I just think that who would want to pay premium price for a striker of that age? But saying that, you pay for what you get right now. That's especially the sense with Watkins. He's pushing 30, but I just think Nottingham Forest can get into Europe, and he can have a run at Europe. I could see that being the pinnacle.
Mm.
But I definitely think, given his career, I mean, he was at Burnley and he did chip in, probably got close to 10 Premier League goals. I know he was a good Championship striker as well. But yeah, I definitely say this is his ceiling.
Yeah,
He's found the right club.
fair enough. So we're going to jump on to the Newcastle Fulham game. And for anyone who loves football, genuinely, in this game, I saw one of my favourite things that I could possibly see on a football pitch. And it was the Tonoli half volley that leathered the crossbar. And it just gives me such a warm feeling inside when I see something as beautiful as that. It didn't go in, and I think it's even better when it doesn't go in. It was stunning. I think Isaac hit the bar as well in that game
Yeah.
with a beautiful effort, but because it was on the half volley, I'm giving it to Tonoli for me. Gordon's run for the first goal was a standout. Created the space and took full advantage of it. He had the bit between his teeth, and I've not seen that for a few games now. Fulham move though for the goal was a very two-touch, one-touch training ground esque, and I think it was almost impossible to defend against. And the subs obviously coming on and making the difference. And the Muniz finish, I thought, was so classy. Very, very clever. Touch to see it go past the goalkeeper. Nathan, you said you were quite interested in this game.
Yeah, because I just think on paper, Newcastle, up until the loss to Bournemouth, they'd won 9 games in a row. So they're a team that are high up on a team that is watchable, especially with Isak up front, who's been amazing this season. And I think it was I read a stat that it was Fulham's first win at St James's Park since 2009. So 16 years of not getting any results at St James's Park. But I just think it signified Marco Silva's time at Fulham and how he's assembled a squad that is. I mean, they lost Palhinha in the summer, and I was a fan who thought, oh, that's going to really hinder them. They might be down the bottom end of the league. But they've accumulated Smith Rowe, they've got Muniz and Raul Jimenez. They've not spent. This just signifies they've spent not a lot of money on good Premier League players, and it just shows that recruitment is so key, especially with Anthony Robertson. I think he's the top assists for a defender this season. So they've got a very strong base of defending, and then they were very threatening on the attack with Iwobi and Smith Rowe. And I noticed Harry Wilson's injured, so Adama Traore came in, and he had a big input in the game also.
Yeah, absolutely. Eshan, anything you wanted to add to that game?
No, agreed. I think it was a good testament to the quality of both teams when we look at a United who's struggling, who with recruitment being I would argue the focal point, to see two teams that have done a really fantastic job. We made a mention in our prep for the episode that this is Fulham's first win at St James Park since 2008, 2009, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the season that Alan Shearer took over Newcastle at the end and they still got relegated. So pretty good testament to both the longevity of Fulham, how they're still competing, like in a Premier League where the costs are so high, the quality of the league is fantastic. I think we see that in the Champions League. Like if Forest qualify for the Champions League, we could see them competing, right? So for a 10th place team to come to Newcastle and stamp their credentials for the quality of their team, it was fantastic to watch. So I thought it was a great Premier League encounter. I'm so glad that Mikey brought up the Tonali hit. I was gobsmacked when I saw that. I can't believe it's not getting enough love on the internet because it's just so sweet in the way it swerves. But
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
I think that also this is a classic case of the game is on a knife edge. Like we talk about Fulham and Fulham's credentials, but Newcastle were in this game. If it was really dependent on the last 5 to 10 minutes. I think it's a great example of what makes football so beautiful is you have 5 to 10 minutes to make a difference, and it's just that one moment that's going to count. And unfortunately for Newcastle fans, Fulham got it this round.
Yeah, absolutely, it does, and making it count is everything that matters, and that's why here at the Global Sports Network we spent a lot of time in selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out as a clear winner with a 4K video recording from your phone and an AI editing tool that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description and learn more about Zencastr. Now, to finish with you boys, I would like to go to the Premier League table as it looks on this fine Monday morning. We have 3 teams holding the relegation zone, and they are all teams that were promoted this season. Nathan, you highlighted this as being problematic for those teams. The only team that are in touching distance are Wolves, in my opinion. After that, you've got Everton, who also have a game in hand. If they were to win that game in hand, they would go 10 points clear of Wolves. which means it's a 4-horse race, in my opinion, with the relegation battle. What's your take on it, and what's your vibe about the gulf between the teams that are coming up?
Yeah, well, if we go through team by team, Southampton, you could argue, and a lot of their fans would say that they shouldn't have gone up. It was a very, very closely knit playoff final that they had, and their squad that they've assembled just not Premier League ready. Like, there's not many players who have got Premier League experience. Well, they've got players like Aribo and Adam Armstrong. It's a very championship looking squad, and then obviously the manager's still trying to play passing out from the back, Pep Guardiola style, and he ends up losing his job. And look at the points they're on is nearly equaling Derby's lowest ever Premier League points tally. So, and then if you look at Leicester, they sacked the manager when they're 16th. So two of the managers have lost their job, and he's been on a terrible run, Van Nistelrooy, up until the Tottenham win, which dragged Tottenham closer to it. But you'd say on paper Tottenham are not going to get relegated with the squad that they have. And again, like, you've got 38-year-old Vardy up front, Mavadidi, players like this who are decent young players. El Canus. Defensively, I think they've got the whole championship defense that they had, just in Vestergaard, Wout Face. So it's hard to see how they've. I'm not saying they have to spend a ton of money, but it's hard to see how they're going to compete with the same players that they had. And then if you look at Ipswich, I'd say they've probably give it the best go. And they've looked good in games. There's a few shining lights. Delap, Hutchinson's looked good. But again, I just think the golfing class is it's really, really high. And I think any teams coming up really have to focus on these teams like Bournemouth and Fulham with their recruitment and get it right to have any kind of chance. It's really damaging for the league to see how hard the jump from Championship to Premier League is.
Yeah, I think I would also add that you're also seeing teams trying to even do this aspect where they use the yo-yo method, where they go up once and know that they're going to get relegated, and the whole point is to get up that second season and use the parachute payments from the relegation into the championship. It's like a good example of this is Norwich. Norwich went up, came down, went up, and wanted to stay up, but went back down again. And I think that's what we're going to see more and more often, is that there's going to be a set of 6, maybe 7 teams in the championship at the top that are just going to come back up, go back down, come back up, like a Sheffield United, for example. And it's frustrating because you don't want the issue to only be money, but the problem is if you look at the example of Forest are doing fantastically now. That's because they invested buttloads of money. They invested hundreds of millions of pounds, went into broke the profit and sustainability rules, had the points deduction, barely escaped last season, and now we're profiting. But after several really lucky gambles, if we're being real, because with a points deduction, odds on you're nailed for relegation, especially if you don't have quality in your squad. So thankfully, Nottingham Forest fans will rejoice and enjoy their time now, but it so could have gone 100 times worse. And I guess it's the problem with the might of the Premier League is, yes, we can compete in the European side, but I think it lets down the football pyramid to a certain extent, and I think it's troubling to see.
Yeah, it's got deep. It looks dismal for the relegation zone, and I do agree with you. It's sad that it comes down to money, and I think recruitment is such a pivotal point to what you both said there. If you can recruit well, you can make Premier League status sustainable, I think. But it is pivotal, and you need a strong football club who's willing to back a manager that's right for that football club. A quick touch on the title race. 6 points in it. Liverpool with the game in hand, 9 points clear. It looks as though if Liverpool can maintain consistency, they will be title holders come the end of the season. I can't see any major shocks. Can you guys see anything going on towards to stop them winning it?
I can only see Liverpool winning it now, to be honest, especially with that game in hand. So you're talking 9 points. They've got to lose 3 games, and I just don't see it, especially with their. The only way I would see it is if they have major injuries, especially Van Dijk. He's one of the key players who they can't play. They can't challenge without. But yeah, I just think Slot deserves amazing credit for, especially with the players they bought. They hardly bought anybody, so the squad he came in with was the same squad. So I think he deserves a lot of credit for where he's got them to, especially with the
Yeah.
Champions League as well. They're top of the Champions League as well, so that's amazing. I just think maybe fatigue comes in during when Champions League comes back, and then if they can hold up with injuries, which Salah is never injured, so Salah's probably one of the best players in the world. So I can only see Liverpool winning it now.
Yeah, I've got to agree, and I think when he came in, a lot of managers like to put their own stamp on it, and there was no knee-jerk reaction from him. He didn't buy anybody. He kept it the same. He didn't try and change too many things, and it's full credit to him because he slowly created his own ethos, and it's very clear that what way that he wants Liverpool to play, and it isn't exactly what Jurgen Klopp was doing, but he didn't do anything drastic, which I think has been really pivotal. And the fact that other teams have dropped points and had a bit of inconsistency in form has probably played quite a big part. Unfortunately, this episode has come to an end. It's gone really fast. It's been an absolute pleasure having you both here. That is our daily GSPN roundup. It's goodbye from me and goodbye to both of you. Thanks very much, guys.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Mikey. It was a good weekend of football.
Brilliant weekend.